You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. Is America doing a good enough job as it pertains to the Hantavirus outbreak from the MV Hantavirus and the Americans coming home? I think so. I think America's doing a good job. I know, people in the media want to make this Hantavirus story like the next COVID. It's not going to be, God willing. This is I believe the crews contained it the best they could. Then America is doing a good job. Spain did a good job evacuating them. We have currently 18 Americans evacuated from the MV Hantavirus. It was the cruise ship that was not allowed to disembark until they hit the Canary Islands, and then the country of Spain helped them disembark. Our Americans were expatriated to our country, and 16 of those 18 are in specialized units in Nebraska. 2 are in Atlanta. Only 1 of them have tested positive, from what we're learning. Of those 18 individuals in America, 17 are Americans. 1 is a British national that resides in the United States. 16 of them are at the University of Nebraska's Medical Center's National Quarantine Unit. 1 patient is in the biocontainment unit after testing positive for the virus. Our Nebraska Medical Center's National Quarantine Unit is the one that we used when Ebola we had the Ebola outbreak, and we had Americans that were coming back from working in West Africa, and we used Nebraska's Medical Center's National Quarantine Unit, University of Nebraska, and I'm we're really grateful that we have that sort of facility. And then 2 are at Emory University. There are at least 7 other Americans who had returned earlier, being monitored by local health officials across 7 different states. I don't believe any are in Nevada, but I believe California, Texas. I don't have the list of states where some of these individuals are. However, the incubation period is anywhere from a few days to 8 weeks, which means the time of exposure to the time of symptoms could be as long as 2 months, which means they are going to be asked to watch their symptoms, report any symptoms, go for frequent testing, and they are being closely monitored. Now, how many actual true hantavirus cases erupted from this MV Hantavirus cruise ship fiasco, where a couple was on a bird watching expedition, come on the cruise ship, they end up dying of hantavirus, exposing another person, that person dies. How many people actually have hantavirus? So 1 of our Americans, we believe, tested positive. And according to NBC News, the number of cases have risen now to 11. They say a total of 11 have been reported now as of Tuesday, and that the number could rise. 1 American who was on the cruise ship is now quarantining, as we spoke about. They say Jake Rosemarin is one of the American passengers quarantined in Omaha, Nebraska. He spoke to NBC News from his room in the University of Nebraska Medical Center, and then he and the 15 others are remaining quarantined there. And so he said, "I'm happy to be in a place where I know we are well cared for, and if anything happens, we have the medical attention that we need." And I agree. I think they're in very, very good hands. And as long as you could address any of the respiratory issues early, that or renal issues early, we don't have any treatment, we don't have an antidote, we don't have a vaccine, but we could at least do supportive measure. And that's what's kind of scary about viruses. With bacteria, we got antibiotics, but with viruses, we don't have a lot of antivirals, especially for something like this. But the Hantavirus had departed Argentina on April 1. There were about 150 people on board doing a nature sightseeing mission. They went to the world's most remote points. It's interesting. That would be on my bucket list to do. Not now, but I would have. I don't blame people for wanting to take a cruise ship and go to places that you usually can't drive or hike to. 9 cases of the deadly hantavirus have been confirmed by lab results, in addition to suspected cases. Now, we're being told by Daily Mail that there might be another case in France. They say there might be a contact case in Brittany, northwestern France. So when you have the hantavirus exposure, the couple who got it, well, that would be like the first generation. Then exposing it to somebody on the cruise ship would be second, like a second generation. They're saying this is generation 3 by somebody who got the secondary exposure, giving it to possibly a third person. The potential case was identified in Concarneau, a commune in the Finistère department of Brittany, and they say they have been sent to the University Hospital of Rennes for further exam. Now, right now, this remains only a contact case, a person who has been in contact. According to the mayor of the city, they said no need to panic. We're only talking about a single case which has been contained. But the potential for this to spread is there. I don't believe it will. We are, though, on guard because this is a unique strain. Hantavirus you usually get from exposure to rat droppings and saliva and pee and poop of a rat. In this particular case, they believe it's the Andes strain, which the Dutch couple might have brought on board, which does have the potential to transmit from person to person. Also, like we saw with Mpox, with Mpox, Mpox used to be, something where it was more tactile. And then they were concerned that with the rapid cases, that maybe there was more of another person-to-person transmission. So sometimes these viruses can fool us. And they could, look at how our woke public officials got fooled by COVID, thinking that they could put a plexiglass, right, barrier between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence during the vice presidential debate and think that that could stop COVID. Or they thought that if you stood on your sticker that had 2 feet on it, which was 6 feet away from somebody else, that you wouldn't spread COVID. So sometimes public officials can get fooled. But I do believe they have this under control. We might hear of some case. Unfortunately, the more contact cases out there, the more of that potential to spread. So they do need to contain it as quickly as possible. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme. The solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's Aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
We're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big shout out to our producer Daniel, who is rocking the dials. You know, I keep hearing that the Democrats were so anti-man that they lost men. You know, in the primaries, in the election, and the anti-man sentiment had grown so much that I hear young people say that they struggle to date and they struggle to meet girls or have friends who are girls because they don't like dudes. And that it's very difficult to propagate the human race if you're anti-man. Like, hey, I love men. I wish I loved men more because I only had 2 kids. Would have loved to have more kids, but I would have loved to make more babies. But I loved enough so I can at least say I did my share to help propagate the human race. But the anti-man sentiment is growing. Now, mind you, we have seen men do some bad things. I've seen women do bad things, but I've seen men do amazing things. I have brothers, dads, boys, husbands. Now, I don't understand how a woman or how a party could propagate anti-man sentiment when they all had a father. They all had they have brothers. They have men in their lives. And, it was interesting. I was, when I was teaching medical school in a classroom setting, there was a student who was talking about the rich white guys. And she was probably liberal, and she was making a comment about how, the rich white guys would hate this or love this or whatever. And I said, after you graduate, you're going to be considered a rich white guy. She's like, say what? And then another student comes up saying, yeah, she's right. We're going to be rich white guys once we become doctors. And she's like, I don't get that. I don't get that. Well, because, when there's hate and there's discrimination and there's bullying, it's just a matter of seconds when the eye of Mordor turns to somebody else. And if you're going to be a physician and you're going to be making 6-figure salaries, right? People are going to be, saying that you owe and you need to pay your fair share and you are the reason why the system is wrong and you're privileged and and so what's interesting is when you hear Democrats like John Fetterman talk about how it's not working when you're anti-man. Senator John Fetterman said Democrats have alienated young male voters. They've increasingly portrayed men as part of the problem. Now, this was during a discussion he had with Representative Dan Crenshaw of Texas, Donna Brazile. And they talked about masculinity, parenting, and the Democratic Party struggles, according to Fox News. And he said, well, without a doubt, though there's part of the Democratic Party became more and more anti-men or describing that they were part of the problem or they have toxic traits. He said this on Real Time with Bill Maher. And he said, and that's why there's been such a big migration away from the Democratic Party, from young men. And that's really why one of the parts why we lost in 2024. So the conversation began when host Bill Maher asked Fetterman about the statistics showing men are nearly twice as likely as women to still live with their parents in the current economy. He said, we've lost the vote. You talk to any of the traditional union members that are men, we lost them a long time ago. And he said Democrats cannot rebuild support among male voters by blaming them for broader societal problems. Now, if you identify anyone as the problem or blame them for some things, then you're going to lose. I mean, he's not wrong. Brazile acknowledged concerns about young men struggling socially and economically, but said women historically faced many of the same barriers. Women have struggled, but you don't have to be anti another group to help your own. I mean, when I got into medical school and any job I got or anything I was able to do, in my media career, I never wanted that to be done at the expense of anybody else. And I credit the men and women in my career that helped get me here. Did I have men that tried to mess with me? Yes. Did I have women that tried to mess with me? Yes. But I'm still grateful for the men and women that did support me. And it was both men and women, more men than women. So, for women to advance saying, well, the reason why we've advanced is we got rid of all the men. That's not a big yeehaw. That's not a big, proud of you. It's navigating the world and working with men, because we have to work with men, with women. We have to work together. Now I get some women are very fearful of men. If you've ever been assaulted, that's not easy. Trust me, I've been there. But that's not everybody. I've had women do horrible things to me. Maybe not in terms of physical assault or sexual assault, but in terms of messing with my career, etc. Doesn't make me hate all women. Doesn't make me hate all men. We have to understand that there are individuals out there that are bad individuals, but you can't and you can't make a person feel like they are evil or not wanted. And when I ask the younger generation, I go, "Did you really feel like you didn't have a home with the Democrats?" I go, nobody likes men anymore. Yet when I hear Gen Zs say that they are, considered the bad guy and they don't know what to do that we can never go back to the way we were in America, treating people based on race, gender, creed, unequally, and making them feel like they're inferior or they're bad or they're toxic. All men are created equal. And unfortunately, now there were not all Democrats, but there was that messaging where, if you're a man, no need to apply. No need to apply for the scholarship. No need to apply for this. No need to apply for this. However, if you're a man that is going to transition to a female, we'll accept you. So men felt like they either had to be a transgender man or go to the Republican side. I mean, that's not, come on. And so the messaging, unfortunately, though, has trickled down to non-media, non-political people. And I hear girls talk. I'm in ladies' bathrooms. I'm around students. They're like, "Oh, well, they're guys. They're this. I don't need men. I don't need men. I don't. You do. Okay, I need men. I need men and women. I need fellow Americans. I need my public officials. It's okay to need people. And I get it. We all, as a woman, you do go through these little phases of women power and sisterhood. And I get, the making fun of, I remember that joke, if they could put a man on a moon, why don't they put all of them? I get women will do, just like men and the women jokes. I get that, right? The blonde jokes and all that. Listen, I think that stuff's funny. But it wasn't a joke. They really made it look like that you are, you need to drown on the Titanic. No, not at all. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the men. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the women. Yes, bad things happened in the past. Women weren't allowed to vote. That's frightening. Thank God we were able to have a voice. God bless those women who had the guts, who, by the way, needed male support to make that change. They got men to support them. So the reason why women could vote is not only because of women, but because of men. When you learn to work together, you get stuff done. We don't always have to be at war. We don't always have to be divided. But now, how do these women date if they don't respect the person they're dating? Or they think that person is toxic, or they think that person is not welcomed in society? How do they start their own family? Well, they're not. And I'm not saying not all, young women who aren't, starting a family and getting married is because they're anti-man. But there is a lot of that sentiment that is prohibiting their dating. And boys are talking about how on dates, not mine, but they're on dates, and it's really hard to fall for somebody who is man bashing. Just like, if I was on a date with somebody and they were like, "Oh gosh, she was such a bitch and she was this and she was this, and oh, she's crazy," women and hormones, I'd be like, "No, I don't. Nice to meet you." I'd be out of there. So Democrats need to figure out what they're going to do. They don't have enough women to vote, and also accusing people of being racist and being misogynist and anti-women for Kamala Harris not winning kind of insults us women. That was the best person you could come up with. I think Michelle Obama would have done way better. We have women who could probably really represent women well on the Democratic and Republican side. Use those women then. But don't pick someone that's going to fail and then say, you see, you're anti-woman. No. We're just pro-American. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show, 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Do you remember that Baltimore bridge where a ship hit the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore? It collapsed and killed 6 people. The Justice Department has now brought 18 charges against the operators and a manager related to that, according to NBC News. The operators of the 100,000-plus ton cargo ship that crashed into the Maryland Bridge 2 years ago, that caused it to collapse and killed 6 people, are now on the hook for multiple charges. Federal prosecutors said they're charging the international companies Synergy Marine Pte. Ltd. And Synergy Maritime Pte. Ltd., as well as Ship Technical Superintendent Radhash Krishan Karthik. The charges included conspiracy to defraud the United States and misconduct or neglect of ship officers that resulted in death. According to NBC News, the 2 companies and technical superintendent were also charged with willfully failing to immediately inform the U.S. Coast Guard of a known hazardous condition, obstruction of an agency proceeding, false statements. According to a statement announcing the charges, the companies were also accused of misdemeanor violations of the Clean Water Act, Oil Pollution Act, and Refuse Act. The department said the charges are related to the discharge of pollutants into Maryland's Patapsco River, including the shipping containers, their contents, oil, and the bridge itself. NBC News has reached out to Synergy Group for comment. The 900-foot ship Dolly lost power twice, slammed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in the early hours of March 26, 2024, while a work crew was fixing potholes. 6 construction workers died when the bridge crumbled down into the river. Another construction worker fell into the waters below, sustained serious injuries, thank God survived. There was an inspector working as a subcontractor for the Maryland Transportation Authority, was able to escape the collapse without injuries. Nearly 24 crew members on the ship survived, along with 2 pilots who were helping the vessel navigate. Now, the construction workers who died was Dorlean Ronial Castillo Cabrero, Carlos Daniel Hernandez Estrella, Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes, Jose Minor Lopez, Miguel Angel Luna Gonzalez, Minor Yasir Suazo Sandoval, and the one who survived is Julio Cervantes Suarez. So Cervantes told NBC News in July of 2024 that the men who died were all Latino, included his nephew, brother-in-law, and friends he had known for years. He said Alejandro, Miguel, Dorlean, Menor, Carlos, Jose were making our roads safer when they lost their lives on that fateful day. The collapse should have never happened. The collapse brought the critically important Baltimore port to a standstill. The reconstruction of the bridge is still ongoing 2 years later. And sadly, the collapse was preventable. So they are securing justice for the victims, according to the Justice Department. And apparently the company, the Synergy Marine Pte Ltd, is based in Singapore, and Synergy Maritime is based in Chennai, India, according to prosecutors. And Nair, 47 years old, is an Indian national who was a technical superintendent of both companies. They said that they believe the ship's technical superintendent is in India and that they would use all available law enforcement tools to bring him to the U.S. to face charges. So, we'll keep you posted on this. It's just frightening that something like this, could happen. And it's somebody being half-assed, somebody not doing their job. And then apparently it causes such destruction. So we'll keep you posted on that. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I'm looking at this video of the man who was crossing the runway in Denver when the plane struck him. And it's interesting because they're saying it's suicide. I mean, obviously somebody to climb a chain link fence, razor wire, to come onto a runway. You'd think it'd have to be suicidal. But I'm not getting the vibe from that video. I almost see him try to, like when he sees it happen, almost try to step quicker. I could be misconstruing the video. Not sure what the heck is going on and why they would choose to die by suicide that way, especially when it could injure others. However, the medical examiner said they believe it's suicide. They have identified the person, 41-year-old Michael Mott. The cause of death, blunt, sharp force injuries. Collision happened at 11:19 p.m. as Frontier Airlines aircraft was accelerating to take off at Denver International Airport. It was supposed to go to LAX. And if you watch the security video, it shows a figure approaching the runway, crossing it, just at walking pace. And then the Airbus A321 comes in from the left. He vanishes as the plane engine appears to catch fire. Denver International Airport CEO Phil Washington said an alarm went off around 11:10 p.m. and an operator on duty reviewed the alarm and identified a herd of deer just outside the perimeter fence. They said they did not initially see the trespasser. The camera view was alternating between the wildlife and the individual. There are some ditches in the area, so the person was out of view for a bit as well. The airport CEO also mentioned there was a gulch or ravine between the fence line and the runway, which the airport is working to ensure it has a line of sight on. They say minutes later, the airport was alerted by FAA that a person had been struck. He said it took approximately 15 seconds for this person to jump over the 8-foot fence topped with barbed wire. The time between climbing over the fence and being struck by the plane was approximately 2 minutes. According to NBC News, the location of the incident is about 2 miles away from the terminal. Given the short time period, they were not able to intervene and prevent this person from reaching the runway. Now, there has been no suicide note. None of his belongings, including a vehicle, have been located by law enforcement. And the Denver airport is not easy to get to. You can't just leave your apartment and walk over to it. Vegas airport, the Harry Reid airport, I mean, there are apartments and homes nearby, but it's still a distance to get to the runways. But some airports like Kansas City, Denver, they're a little bit more out, away from the city area. I'm just confused. You know what? And maybe I'm looking too much into this, but this looks like somebody. I'm just not buying the suicide. Looks like somebody that wanted to get through. Didn't really seem to have much on him. But then again, I'm not sure how they could find that now since he was partially sucked into the engine. But it looked like he had a destination. He was walking towards, my guess, the terminal. And then you almost see him turn and then try to speed up his step. It's one thing to, if you're going to commit suicide, to go on the terminal and just stand still, and then wait for something to hit you. But he walked across at the exact time. How would he have known that he was going to walk across at the exact time? I'm telling you, I don't think this was a suicide. I think this is somebody who lost, his marbles. Somehow decided to, not sure how or why, he was trying to, it doesn't sound like he was an employee trying to get to his post on time. But it just, with suicide, you're in an air, you're positioning, you're planning, it's how did he know that he was going to be crossing the runway, unless we're just missing from the video that he was standing there waiting, sees the plane coming and says, now I'm going to start my walk. But the gist I'm getting from this is he's walking and just walking straight ahead, not looking at what's about to hit him. And then I don't know. So that's what I'm thinking. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
We're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. So President Trump is meeting with Xi Jinping, and this is, I think, a good time for this to happen. I have been very concerned about how Xi Jinping is not helping the Americans and everybody else who wants the Iranian Revolutionary Guard gone. And we've been hearing report after report that they've been helping Iran. So I think it's interesting that Trump is going to meet with the president of China. The Chinese have been very reluctant to prod Iran to agree to U.S. terms. And so he is going to meet one of the biggest buyers of Iran's oil, China, and see what he could do to get Xi Jinping to help. Obviously, China's interests should lie more with what America can do with China than what Iran can do. This regime is failing. You would think, why would Xi Jinping even meet with Trump? I think he needs to. They have a regime that we don't even know who's running it. And so this is a very high stakes visit. And I don't necessarily think China is going to change their posture, but they might not necessarily be as supportive of the current regime. And maybe he'll be able to get a little bit more insight as to what's going on. We've all been guessing that Iran has been helping Russia and vice versa as it pertains to the Ukraine war. And I had said that if the current Revolutionary Guard or the Iranian regime gets taken down, we're going to see the Russia-Ukraine war end soon. Well, interestingly, we're being told that the war might end soon. According to CNN World, Russian President Vladimir Putin used the May 9th Victory Day parades commemorating the Soviet Union's defeat of Nazi Germany to talk about the current state of the war, and that he believed the matter of the Ukrainian conflict was coming to an end. Now, this has gone on since, February 2022? And that's kind of one of the first times we heard something of this nature. Usually he is pretty, gung-ho, and now they're winning, they're this. But, to have this, though it may end soon. That's interesting. And the Iran regime and its sadly its involvement, and that's what Iran did. They knew how to they knew how to infiltrate with just enough and work with other countries in a bad way, making them rely on them to some degree, because Iran's not a small country. They were able to pack a punch. And I'm sure they had much more nuclear capabilities than the media is leading on. Israel was aware, and America was aware, which is why they had to do Midnight Hammer and then Operation Epic Fury. But Iran has definitely been in bed with many of our non-allies, and so and they did this on purpose so that they can unfortunately have shall we say allies for them. However, I don't really see China running to their aid to the degree that Iran needed. Russia is unable to do that. So I'm thinking that the Russian-Ukraine war will end soon. Maybe not so much with the Iran conflict. Now, this caught our eye. A Democratic mayor had apparently been now accused and has now pled guilty to acting as an illegal agent for the Chinese government. This was a Democratic mayor in Southern California, Eileen Wang. Newsweek is reporting that the admission places a sitting U.S. elected official at the center of a foreign influence case tied to undisclosed coordination with Beijing-linked officials. Wang was a Democrat who was elected in 2022, is now facing up to 10 years in prison, and has resigned from her post. Local officials are now assessing the impact on the Southern California community. No official response from China. Beijing described this as a witch hunt. So it'll be interesting what Trump is able to get out of Xi Jinping for this one. We know they have spies. We know they have operatives. How one was able to get elected? Wang, 58 years old, is a Southern California politician elected to the Arcadia City Council in November 2022 and later became mayor. In Arcadia, the mayor is selected from the 5-member council, a structure that elevated Wang to the role after her initial election to public office. They have a rotating leadership system. She's a longtime resident, became the first Chinese-American woman elected to the council, helping make it majority female for the first time. She was active in local civic and business organizations, including the Rotary Club, Chamber of Commerce, served as president of the American Southwest Chamber of Commerce of USA between 2018 and 2022. She ran on a platform emphasizing community engagement and public safety, took part in local initiatives. People liked her. She even organized events and supported victims following the 2023 Monterey Park mass shooting. She did resign from city council yesterday, stepped down as mayor, and now is facing federal charges. So what did she do if she was an operative? Well, according to the Justice Department, Wang and Yongying Mike Soon worked from late 2020 through 2022, allegedly at the direction of the Chinese government, to promote pro-Beijing messaging in the United States. The DOJ said the pair operated a website called U.S. News Center that presented itself as a news outlet for the local Chinese American community while publishing content directed by officials from the People's Republic of China. Now, one example cited by prosecutors, a Chinese official, according to Newsweek, sent Wang pre-written material via WeChat, including content denying human rights abuses in Xinjiang, which Wang quickly posted and shared back with the official. The DOJ said Wang also made edits at officials' directions and reported engagement metrics. The Justice Department further stated that she communicated with individuals tied to China's intelligence apparatus and admitted she did not disclose her role as a foreign agent to U.S. authorities or inform readers that some content was published at the direction of Chinese officials. She has pled guilty. This was October 2025 to acting as an illegal agent of a foreign government. Now, interesting. Oh, that was Soon. Soon pled guilty, her partner. So Kash Patel wrote, Mayor Wang admitted to acting as a foreign agent from at least 2020 through 2022, promoting PRC propaganda in the U.S. and acted at PRC's direction to promote their interests. She has agreed to resign from office and plead guilty. So now you wonder who else. Now, what's concerning, though, is some people might now, we don't want people starting to go and, and stereotype and profile and but China has been notorious, and we have seen time and time again, infiltrating our academia, infiltrating our politics. Who was it that was, I think, was there a spy that was sleeping with Swalwell, allegedly, Representative Swalwell? And then with their quote unquote weather balloon that Biden let transverse across the United States. So I wouldn't be surprised if there might be other individuals that China has. That's, when you try to take over a country, you buy land, you infiltrate their academia, you get elected leaders. It's textbook what China's doing. And I can't believe it took this long for her to get caught. She's being charged with one count of acting in the United States as an illegal agent of a foreign government. She pled guilty. This carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in federal prison. And she's in trouble because she worked with Chinese officials without notifying the U.S. government, and she was posting stuff on their behalf. As part of her plea agreement, she admitted she would not disclose her relationship with Chinese officials to U.S. authorities and did not inform readers that some of her content on her website had been published. So we got some huge concerns as it pertains to broader influence from our Chinese counterparts. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.